Today was a big day because NOAA updated their seasonal forecast. So Colorado State and NOAA are two big, Colorado State, the late Jim Gray, Dr. Gray, his team, Phil Klotzbach and his team. And then NOAA has their own seasonal forecasters within the Hurricane Center. They went first, and Colorado State, I think is going to update in the next few days. So as we get into the peak, we start to see these get updated. And so one thing to note is that, as James mentioned, we're starting on a record pace. And it's hard to believe that we're starting on a record pace after we started on a record pace last month, or last year, rather. We beat 2021. We beat 2020, the earliest east storm, with Elsa. Edward held that trophy for less than a year, and then Elsa came along and did that. And keep in mind that 4 out of the 5 named storms have affected the Carolinas in some sort of way too. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind too. So it's already been somewhat busy here over here in the tropics for us, but the revised forecast brings the number of named storms up from 13 to 20 to 15 to 21. And again, this is taking into account the named storms that have already occurred. So there could be at least 10 more. There could be 15, 16 more. That is certainly a possibility. 7 to 10 hurricanes.
To remind people that we ran out of names last year.
Yeah, we ran out of names last year. And again, last year just completely blew by these seasonal forecasts. Like the seasonal forecast had to be adjusted again in September because they realized that it was going to be insufficient. I hope we don't get there. And there's probably a couple limiting factors to that as well. But 7 to 10 hurricanes, 3 to 5 major hurricanes. That's the seasonal outlook now from NOAA, updated today. We've already had 5 named storms. We could have another 10 to 15 to 16. If we run out of names, there's a supplemental list this year. We've stopped using the Greek alphabet because Eta and Theta and all those, they ended up sounding the same and people got confused. So we're moving on from that, and there's going to be a new name list. Hopefully we don't ever have to use it. Hopefully that can just stay where it is. But the next named storm will be named Fred. And we may have a couple candidates for a future Fred here going on in the Atlantic right now. So first place we got is closer to land here. It's the weather Twitter likes to call it the yellow crayon. So we'll just call it the yellow blob here. And this has got a 20% chance of turning into something in the next 5 days. Basically, at this time of year, we start seeing these tropical waves get going in this neck of the woods here, getting about, past 50, 40, 30 west. And so we have this wave here. This is going to be approaching the Lesser Antilles over the next few days. Has a chance in the next 5 days of maybe becoming a tropical system. There's a couple models that have hit on it as possibly, closing off the circulation and becoming a tropical cyclone of some type. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then when we go out further towards Africa, this area has not yet emerged off the coast. So this is going to come off the coast of Africa tomorrow, probably tomorrow night. And this one has a little bit better shot. This is going to have a little bit more runway here. Again, 48 hours, it needs to get off land first. But don't tell that to Claudette either. And if you remember Claudette and how weird that one was, but this guy is he's gonna come off the coast of Africa here in the next day or so, and then things look good. We're starting to get into that more favorable phase for tropical development in the Atlantic, and it's Cabo Verde season typically begins right around here. And again, if you remember Elsa, where it started, it started pretty close to the Eastern Atlantic, which is climatologically odd for July. We don't normally have tropical systems coming out of there in July. So, but August is a little bit more normal for that. So again, we should see, we're going to see a little uptick in this again. And again, if we look at, we're looking at the heat map, and our pal Shay Gibson, he loves, he always brings this out because this is such a good way to point it out. We're starting to get on a few more of the peaks here. But that hurricane season, climatologically speaking, really ramps up when you get up towards September 10th. That's the climatological peak of the season. we are there. So we have a lot to scale. And as we know, with the way the tropics have been the last few years, it can go from 0 to 100 in no time flat. Water temperatures are warm, still anomalously warm, not as bad as 2020, at least thus far. So that's one bit of good news. But there is the potential for a La Nina to come back in the next few months. So La Nina is going to be much more favorable for tropical storm formation in the Atlantic because it lowers the wind shear over the Atlantic. Whereas El Nino kicks up the wind shear and kind of and stops those storms from forming as much. But it looks like we might be heading into a double dip La Nina. So certainly something to watch as we go. But the good news is that you have time to prepare. And now is the time to check your hurricane kit, visit your state's emergency management. I know here in South Carolina, we have hurricane.sc, which is fantastic. And that's a place, sorry, my dog is going to sit behind me. This is live television, folks. I mean, it's just the way it is. So sometimes my dog is just going to sit behind me. But we have a hurricane.sc, for example, in South Carolina, which is absolutely fantastic. They have a know your zone tool there, so you can find out your evacuation zones. That is super critical to know, along the coast. Am I in an evacuation zone? How do I get out when I'm in that evacuation zone? So there's things like that. And then of course, how to build a kit. And there's plenty of really good stuff online. You can check with your local weather service office.
We have some links in the show notes and in our live chat right now. These actually